I'm Jeff Marks, Senior Portfolio Analyst at Action Alerts Plus. I'm standing on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange with Jim Cramer. Jim, we got a lot of earnings this morning. We're going to get into a bunch of them, but the markets are higher. I mean, Monday was a very sharp down day, but it's just been nothing but up since.
I'll tell you, Monday was the day we realized the variants can break through and that we're not vaccine enough. We're not even 50% of the country is fully vaxxed. Tuesday was a day where we said, well, maybe it's okay because what we're doing is something like what UK's doing, which is that we're not going to close. Right? That was pretty much taken off the table Tuesday. That was the big fear. And then Wednesday, what it seemed is a recognition that we can have herd immunity very quickly. It's a horrible disease, but the people who aren't being vaccinated are very quickly going to get the disease. And that's the moment when they either get better or they get hospitalized, but not a lot of people are dying. And because of the death figures, I think that bolsters the case of people who say, I don't want to bother to get vaccine. Of course, they're putting the rest of us at risk because of the breakthrough. But I do think by Wednesday we said, you know what? It's business as usual. I don't think it is, but that's what the market's saying.
Yeah, and you called this risk of the unvaccinated the Great American Snag, being that we were all expecting a roaring 20s again, but the worrying about infection rates and case counts, that has been the snag. So how would you approach some of the stocks that would benefit from a roaring 20s environment based off this?
I think you have to look at American Express, which was an amazing quarter, and so on our bullpen list. That just shows you that spending is unabated, and that spending has continued right through till today, because there's Steve Square's got very good numbers. I think that what people realized from Tuesday and Wednesday was there's no slowdown. I mean, when you have Gary Kelly coming on and speaking to me, CEO of Southwest Air, and saying that they're beating 2019 numbers, and American Express beating 2019 numbers, and so many companies beating 2019 numbers when the economy was in full bore greatness. Just imagine what will happen when we get full employment.
Yeah, and then just to dive into American Express, so better than expected quarter. They're really seeing that strong recovery in travel, in small business spending.
Millennials.
Millennials. So, what do you think is just... The sentiment isn't changing around. People are still want to spend. They still want to go out.
They want to. Yes, and I think that the people who are not vaccinated want to go out more than anyone. Why? Because they think they're immune. And being immune and thinking you're immune are very similar. Because a person who's immune from a vaccine is more bold, and a person who thinks that they don't need a vaccine to be immune is bold. So you got these two cohorts, and they're both spending.
By the way, Jim, did you see the vaccine rules that the NFL was put out last night?
I'm blown away by them, basically, because they're saying, they're creating peer pressure like I've never seen. I mean, if you're going to risk and not get vaccinated, then you're putting everybody's paycheck at risk, and you're putting your record at risk, and that means you're done. You're not playing. They're not going to let you play. They being the other players, because they didn't want their paycheck. If you forfeit a game, you forfeit a paycheck. These guys live paycheck to paycheck. So that's not going to happen. So I think it was a brilliant move. The anti-vaxxers are going to be flummoxed by this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how quickly...
Would you still draft Hopkins?
Yeah, so DeAndre Hopkins, star wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals, he tweeted that he's just, I forget exactly what he said, but he wasn't too sure about the NFL following that decision. He quickly deleted that tweet. Would I still draft him? I think so. I think he is the best wide receiver.
Aaron Rodgers?
I don't think Aaron Rodgers has any concern with the vaccine. I'm not sure. It's just a contract thing.
Well, but they didn't get, instead of drafting another wide receiver, they drafted a quarterback. So, I understand his peak. I guess I think he's going to play Jeopardy for this year.
I would still draft Rodgers, though. I think there's few. I mean, he was the MVP last year.
Right.
And he's always like it's been unsure whether or not he will want to play with the Packers, but when he does, I don't think there's anyone that you can count on that more than him.
I agree. Look, I think the NFL is going to be very much a microcosm of the battle in this country between the vax and non-vax, where the non-vaxxers, I think, are going to be increasingly under a lot of pressure from the vaxxers, not unlike French President Macron, who said, okay, listen, it's your turn, vaxxers. You anti-vax, you stay home. We want you home. We don't want you out of your house. He was very tough.
All right, so we already hit on AXP earnings. Let's hit on a couple more. Honeywell reported before the bell this morning, as did Schlumberger, both better than expected quarters. What's your take on the two?
Look, Honeywell was up 9. Honeywell, we knew they couldn't blow it away in aerospace. Every other division was great. Honeywell is historically expensive, as Bob Pisani said, but if you get aerospace back, oh my God, you'll wish, why did I sell it at 128 for? And that's what I think is at stake here.
Yeah, and that's an Action Alerts Plus name, and we'll talk more about that on our video right after this, and with the write-up afterwards.
And just so you know, if you listen to our call, remember, it's more of a recommended list. I said that Honeywell had moved too much in anticipation of the quarter, and the Crown Castle had moved too much, and we had sold some Crown Castle. And I just want people to understand there's a subtlety to the product, okay? Because it's not like when we own Honeywell, we own Crown Castle and we love it. No, we own Crown Castle, but we're declaring some victory because we do fear that it'll come down after a major run. I felt that Honeywell will go down no matter what they printed.
Yeah, you mentioned that yesterday on our daily rundown video. You said if you are of a more trader mindset, that take profits ahead of the quarter, then maybe you could look back into. And that's how you marry a long-term investment portfolio with a short-term trading mindset.
If you don't do it, what happens is you get a Nike or a Starbucks for us, which is that we thought we could get back in maybe, and you don't get that chance. So you have to be careful. Those are heavily short-squeezed names, too. I think a lot of people felt that when the Chinese cracked down on their own companies, they cracked down on American companies, and they really haven't.
All right, now let's get into social media stocks. So two reported last night, Twitter and Snap. Twitter, fastest revenue growth, I believe, since 2014, and Snap showed very strong users as well. Snap's flying today. So what do you think about these two social media names?
It's really an interesting call because they're so professional now. Now, they're not making any money. Well, EBITDA positive. But what I think about Snap is that it's almost impossible now to reach someone who's 16 or 18. We once had a board member of the street who was in charge of the advertising for Colgate. And he explained to me that you've got to try to get these people while they're still in their teens because they're going to go for Crest if they don't go for Colgate. That's Snap in a nutshell. It's a way to reach a cohort that can't be reached anymore because they don't watch TV at all. I mean, there's this whole group of people, when you listen to Steve Squeri at American Express, where are those advertising premium besides just CNBC? Hulu. He wants to reach those people. Everyone's talking about reaching those people. Well, if you listen to Snap Call, you know that the advertisers love it. The advertisers, to some degree in Twitter, love it if you have a streaming product. But what I'm seeing is some good news in small, medium-sized business there. The stock had been stalled, but all these numbers are good for Pinterest. They're good for Facebook, good for Google, Alphabet, and they're exceptionally good for Amazon because Amazon's advertising business is so on fire.
I was going to say that entire digital advertising ecosystem today is really taking off the back of that very strong numbers from Twitter and Snap.
Yeah, Jeff, look, there's no doubt about it in my mind that TV, I'm not saying TV's dead, I work for TV. I am saying that there are people who can't be reached by TV, and you have to find them because they are your seed corn. And the only way you think you can reach them is those online advertising companies.
Yeah, and YouTube, property of Alphabet. That's obviously those numbers are just terrific quarter after quarter.
I mean, I think you have the possibility of having some of those companies be like American Express, which just shocked people today.
All right, let's talk about another earnings report from last night. Intel, better than expected earnings. However, guidance was very weak. You've been very critical about Intel and new CEO, Pat Gelsinger.
Well, he's got to show some humility, for heaven's sake. I mean, they're very far behind AMD. And I think that what he often says is that the industry's weak. Second time he's done this. No, Intel's weak. They don't have the right product. I am critical of Pat because his lack of humility gets on my nerves.
And let's just talk about what else is going on with the semis, right? So you had Texas Instruments. They reported earlier this week. Another disappointing call.
Yeah,
so is it important?
They just refused to have the wrong inventories. They refused to give any positives after a good quarter. And it was the Boston beer of the semis.
So is it important right now to separate the semis that have the chips that are in strong demand, they are leading the way in innovation, versus the ones that just might not have the right product lineup?
Yeah, I mean, look, Intel, they were poorly run. They completely missed certain, like a 7 nanometer. And what matters here is that, as Lisa Su told me over and over again, is speed to market. And Intel failed. And so, like, I think what Pat should have said is if I were Pat, I would have said this. I mean, I know maybe he wants to rally the troops. I would have said, we're building a great team. And like Howie Roseman will tell you, the general manager of the Eagles, we're both Eagles fans, he might say, look, we're going to have a good team this year. Wait to see us in 2022. I think Pat Gelsinger should say we're having a good team right now, but wait to see us in 2022.
Yeah, so maybe still they still need to acquire some draft picks, so to speak.
They're going to have to go free agency market.
Yeah. All right, now you did mention Boston Beer. That stock is down heavily. You own a bar San Miguel in Brooklyn.
Okay.
But, I mean, what do you think's going on there? You're more of a Constellation guy, though.
Yes, I am. Well, Constellation came in very big in hard seltzer, Coca-Cola, hard seltzer, Bud, hard seltzer. It was never really a great category to begin with. It had been slowing. But it's what drove with the stock of Boston Beer, not Sam Adams. And now I think why you're seeing the stock down so much is that they had a meeting not that long ago where they told you, despite all the competition, still on fire. And that was wrong.
Yeah, I've never really been a big Truly fan. I like the High Noon Sun Sips, which is the vodka with the seltzer and fruit juice, and maybe White Claw from time to time, but never Truly.
Yeah, we're White Claw people. I await the Constellation drink. But that's the young. I mean, the younger generation likes the White Claw. Look, I'm still a Corona guy. Corona Light too. I think it's Corona Light.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
And rolling one.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, now we do have next week is the gauntlet of earnings season. Of course, we got a lot of big names. Anyone you're looking at specifically? You got the big Mega Cat Tech, UPS Tuesday.
Now, see, UPS. Remember, it had the analyst meeting. Stock dropped very precipitously. I think that Carol Tomei learned a lesson there, which is that when you say that you're only going to do packages that make you money, you have to come up and say also, and that's going to be far more than we thought. I mean, she gave us, she didn't give us enough positives in the conference call. She's a conservative person. I still want to own the stock, and we have a big win on it. Can it be like a tech stock? No, I don't think so. But that I'm looking at Alphabet. Alphabet may be the star of FANG this year, and I think that continues. It's funny because I had the trade desk on, Jeff Green, and they compete against Alphabet in terms of placing ads, which is the double-click product, and they'll just tell you, listen, these guys are awesome. So I think they're awesome.
Yeah, and we got Ford next week too. Action alerts plus name. We added to our position on Monday in that sell-off.
Right now, Ford is different from GM. I think Ford has sourced semis better. But what you have to understand is that Mary Barra had in her hands an electric car that's not working. When you look at the Mach-E, which is a car and driver's car of the year for EV, when you look at next year's products, particularly the Lightning, the F-150 product, and you look at availability, of which there is genuine availability for chips, despite what Gelsinger said in fourth quarter, I think what you say is guide up. And that's what happened. Ford itself may be good, but we heard that they basically had a big chip shortage, so it can't be blow away. But what if it gives a good outlook? That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting week next week, and we're going to be covering all these stocks at Action Alerts Plus and on these videos. So you got to tune in. That's the show for the day. Have a nice weekend, everyone. We'll see you Monday.